Trust in the Lord always. Trust in the Lord always. For the Lord God is the eternal rock.
Hey, I'm back. All right, I think I'm unmuted. I hope I fixed that. You guys watching YouTube got to see my behind-the-scenes rapid phone call of help, but I think I got it fixed. And if not, we'll do more troubleshooting. Yet it seems like every day that I attempt to do the show, I learn something else. So maybe eventually, I'm playing whack-a-mole. Eventually, I'll whack all the moles, and we won't have any more problems. And at that point, I will launch officially and tell my 9,500, I think I have, YouTube followers that I'm back, and let them know where to find me. But in the meantime, thank you so much for bearing with me, for taking a look at my show, listening to my show, taking a look at my YouTube stream, and giving me feedback. So currently, yeah, there's a big delay. All right, I want to get back to the CNN story, and then I want to talk. Gosh, I had other things to talk about. I think I'm going to talk about them anyway. The end of yesterday's show, I talked a little bit about the things that have slowed me down on my book. I had a deadline of September 15th/16th, and during that period of time, discovered that there was a huge gap in the timeline that I was putting together for the book. So I spent a couple of days just feeling frustrated and not really sure what to do about it. And then everything opened up, like floodgates opened up, and I have been learning so many new things without which this book wouldn't have been what it needs to be. For those of you who have not listened to my show during the last couple of months when I've been talking about this book, it is a book on the history of technology from the perspective of Christianity, and proposes, or unproposed concept, I believe, that when Adam and Eve chose to eat the forbidden fruit and were told by the serpent, by Satan, that they would not surely die, but they would get the powers of God, that what they actually got was, in electing him, democratically electing him the leader of the human race, putting him in charge, giving him the throne on earth, and making him the prince of this world, that the deal they struck by eating that apple and getting the knowledge of good and evil is the knowledge that has enabled humanity to have the powers of God, which has proven to be consistently both good and evil. And what is that knowledge? That knowledge is technology. So that's the premise of my book. I did an online search. You can do it yourself. And I said, this seems like a very self-evident, now that I've been working on it for 6 months and thinking about it for decades, it seems very self-evident to me that that would explain a lot of things. It would explain how it is that technology consistently gives you great gifts with one hand and yet always stabs you in the back with the other. There is no such thing as a technology that is 100% beneficial for humanity. All technologies reveal a downside, and oftentimes that downside is really bad. Desperately wicked. The confusing part for so many historians of technology is, why would that be? That just doesn't make sense. But it does certainly seem like a rule. It seems like a canonical rule. It is just the way it is. This would explain it. And my book, going through the history all the way back to the ancient Sumerians, which were the ancient people in the land of Ur. That's where Job wrote the book of Job. That is, Job from the book of Job lived in the land of Ur. That's also where Abraham was called out in order to go to a new land and found the Jewish people. So the land of Ur was in Sumeria. Sumeria, about 3,500 years ago, 3,500 years before Christ, had this enormous explosion of technology. And they are the cradle of civilization in Mesopotamia. They are the cradle of technology. The Sumerians are the ones who developed writing, and they developed mathematics, and they developed agriculture, and they developed the wheel, and cuneiform, and irrigation, and plowing, and lots and lots and lots of technologies that contributed to the explosion, or the initial beginnings of what we refer to today as civilization, big cities. So that we can trace all the way back to that era. The Sumerians did not view themselves as particularly innovative or creative. They attributed all of their technological developments to their gods. They had, obviously, not the real God. They had statues and pagan idols that they worshipped. And they believed in their understanding of the world that those gods were using them to build things, essentially, that one of their key members of their pantheon had essentially enslaved humanity to build these technologies so that the rest of the gods could just kind of kick back and not have to do it themselves. So that's their original philosophy. So I've got a whole section on that, and I continue that theme all the way up through the 1800s. And as I've talked about on the show before, in the 1800s, the entire planet went nuts, beckoning, calling spirits of the dead into the world through a movement called Spiritism or spiritualism. And during that time, technologically speaking, the brakes came off and we had this huge upward spike of technology. So I've tied that together as well. The part that I got stuck on in my book were the years intervening, the years prior to that. And as I shared yesterday, I think I mentioned it briefly at the end of the show, that Jacques Ellul, who is the 1970s French philosopher of technology who wrote the book, The Technological Society, had a line in there that said, it's totally confusing, don't understand why it was that in the second half of the 1800s, technology took off. And I thought I had the answer, that yeah, well, God gives us a protection against the spirit world talking to us and sharing with us its dark gifts. That happens, kind of over a gradual period of time. But then all of a sudden people said, hey, come on in. We take off God's protection. We want spiritual knowledge. We want dark information. We want satanic spirits, really demonic spirits, to come in and give us information, give us knowledge. And then, of course, everything took off. The problem that I ran into on my deadline is that I reread the Jacques Ellul paragraph that I had based a whole bunch of my book on, and read that instead of saying in the latter half of the 1800s, mysteriously it took off, he actually says in the latter half of the 18th century. And so that is the 1700s. So I was like, what do I do now? Well, I have since found a tremendous amount of information and evidence of what was going on in the 16th and 1700s that led to the Spiritist movement and that led to that takeoff of technology. So I have a whole new understanding. And what I was going to talk about on today's show was the physicists, the knowledge, the scientific knowledge that has led to the understanding of modern physics. And I did not know this. I was actually having a conversation with Ray. Thank you very much, Ray, for this. We were just talking on the phone. I was explaining this, and he said, well, what about CERN? And I went, CERN? Is that what CERN? Oh, yeah, that's the high-speed particle accelerator that is doing physics experiments in Switzerland, the border of Switzerland and France. Yeah, that's CERN. I actually watched a movie at the Henry Ford Museum. I have a membership down there, and they've got a big IMAX theater with its big, tall 3D. You can put on 3D glasses. It's pretty cool. I enjoy going there a couple times a year. And I watched a whole movie on CERN in which they showed us, we got to become the little particle that was accelerating around, I think it's 17 miles it's the largest, is it the largest structure? I believe it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it is the largest structure ever created by humankind. It is most definitely the largest underground structure ever created by humankind. I believe it is the biggest building. And that CERN building is where they are accelerating those particles, where they get them up to 99-point-something% the speed of light, which is just inconceivably fast. They're taking the building blocks of the world, the building blocks of matter, the tiny little particles, photons, quarks, little miniature small things. I don't know much about physics, so forgive me if I don't have the exact words right. But they're taking those things, accelerating them using incredibly powerful magnets, thousands of incredibly powerful magnets, and getting them to go super fast and then smashing them into each other, and then keeping an eye on what they get when they smash together. they have developed or discovered something that the Higgs boson, which is commonly referred to as the God particle, that was, they say, there in the first moments after the Big Bang. There's a whole lot of research coming out of there. They've been doing this for some time. All right. Well, I knew about that. I knew about that from watching the movie, and just because it's kind of in the background, we hear about these scientific developments. What I didn't know is that there was a conspiracy theory around it. So I fell down that rabbit hole a couple nights ago, and I clicked on link after link after link, learning what it is that people fear about CERN, what it is that people say about this kind of high energy particle physics, that we're toying with the fabric of the universe, that we are toying with the very essence of matter. Neil Tyson deGrasse, I think, came out and said prior to one of these experiments that they are running the risk of destroying the entire planet, setting in motion some kind of a chain reaction. Black holes could suck everything up. We could destroy matter. We could bring antimatter into the world that would annihilate the matter in this world. I did not realize that not only conspiracy-minded people, which oftentimes are the people paying attention, as well as scientifically minded theorists and physicists and scientists were saying there could be some risks here. We believe that those experiments have opened up very, very small black holes for very, very brief amounts of time. I ran across some sites with some things on them that, if true, would have been horrifying. I later followed up and found out that the scientists quoted in them do not exist. The press conference, supposedly where these things were said, never took place. The organizations hosting them don't exist. So there's a lot of falsehood out there, but there also is some truth. I'm going to tell you about that when we come back, and I'm going to tie it in, believe it or not, with J.D. Vance and the shooting. All right, stay tuned.
Is your email box overrun with spam? With a StartMail account, you'll never have to give your real email address to a stranger again. Online shopping, newsletter subscriptions, getting that 30% off coupon, they all need your email address. But with StartMail, you can invent new addresses linked to your inbox behind the scenes and give those out to people while keeping your real address hidden. It's just one more protection from StartMail.com.
Red alert, Yahoo users. You've fallen in a trap that could ruin your life if you keep using Yahoo.
You consent to sharing all data in your email account with our AI providers, and you grant us a perpetual license to use, display, publish, and publicly distribute your content in any media known now or in the future, and to let other users access and distribute it as well.
Yikes! It's time to switch to StartMail, the only email that's AI-free and private by design. StartMail.com. Use promo code JD.
If you've ever been frustrated or frightened by a cut or a nosebleed that won't stop bleeding, or had an emergency where bleeding can't be controlled, you need Bleed Stop. Bleed Stop works. Simply put Bleed Stop onto any cut or wound, apply pressure, and watch the bleeding stop.
Easy to apply, it doesn't burn, it doesn't sting.
Take away your bleeding fear.
Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the blue Health Products button at the top of the page and scroll down to Bleed Stop. 1360khnc.com and click on the blue Health Products button.
Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? Hi, I'm Craig James, and you may know me from Just Informed Talk Radio. But did you know I'm also a licensed real estate agent at RE/MAX Alliance in Loveland, Colorado? So whether you're buying, selling, renting, investing, or all of the above, call me at 970-217-3824 to set up your free consultation today. Again, 970-217-3824. Or go to pooterhomes.com. That's Pooter, P-O-U-D-R-E, homes.com. And let me earn the privilege of your business today.
It's back!
That's right, it's back. The Modere liquid collagen products are back and available again here at KHNC. The Modere liquid biocell that many of us were using daily. The Modere collagen that helped many of us to have better lives. Yup.
It's back!
Now you can get knee and joint mobility and comfort back again. Now you can greatly reduce your muscle soreness recovery time again. With Modere liquid biocell, you can get back to living life again. Go to 1360khnc.com and click on the Natural Health Products button.
Most people think they can't afford to invest in gold and silver. But at the Patriot Trading Group, we believe that everyone should have the opportunity to own hard assets. That's why we created our Preferred Metals program. You can get started for as little as $100 a month. Go to allamericangold.com and click on our preferred metals icon to learn how you can get started today. Or call us at 800-951-0592, the Patriot Trading Group, allamericangold.com.
I will praise you, oh Lord. I will praise you, oh Lord. You were angry with me, but not anymore. Now you comfort me. I will praise you, oh Lord. I will praise you, oh Lord. You were angry with me, but not anymore. Now you comfort me. See, God has come to save me. I will trust in Him and not be afraid. Lord God is my strength and my song. He has given me victory, and with joy I will drink deeply from the fountain of salvation. And in that wonderful day I will sing, thank the Lord, I praise His name. Thank the Lord, I praise His name. Thank the Lord, I praise His name. Praise His name.
It's beautiful.
Praise His name.
I enjoy the coming back from the breaks and just listening. The so I've got two stories going on. Number one is obviously the tragic shooting today at an ICE facility in Dallas, and the response to it, which I'm concerned about. And then the things that I'm learning about the world in the course of researching for my book. And it's actually probably a good thing that I did not finish my research and put my proposal in on the 15th or 16th as I had intended. And I say 15th or 16th because I'm not sure exactly which day it was. But either way, I am, in hindsight, it's a good thing because there's so much additional information that I have stumbled across, the connections and between so many different things that I have been researching and not seen were connected are now all coming together. The thing that I had not known about CERN, which is where, let me tell you the details on it. It is the European Organization for Nuclear Research, one of the world's largest and most respected centers for scientific research. It is a multinational cooperative scientific endeavor. The Large Hadron, Hadron collider, is that big circular thing that they, kind of like a racetrack, miles and miles long, that they send these particles down. They do experiments. Let me click this right here. 9 experiments at the Large Hadron Collider. The picture that I have here, how do I get you this picture? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I'll figure it out. The picture looks like a giant eyeball. I'm not kidding. It's just, I'm looking at an eyeball right here. I don't know how to show that to you, but it looks like there's a pupil, and then there's a blue iris around it, and then there's, so that you're looking down into it. It looks just like an eyeball. Not that that means anything, but so every time I see it, I'm like, what am I looking at? Is that an eye? The CERN logo is, to me, looks like a bunch of sixes. It's got them kind of going in and around like imagine a circle, but you've got like kind of a line leading into and then resulting in a circle, which looks just like a 6. So this CERN logo to me looks a little bit like a 666. I looked that up online and I found out I'm not alone in that assessment or that concern about the logo. 666, of course, being the number of the beast in the book of Revelation. It is referred to as the number of man, which the beast will require all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive on their right hand or their forehead, or they will be killed when the beast takes control of the end time. So the 666 always kind of concerns me. It concerned me that the very first Apple computer put out by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak was priced at $666.66 and had an apple with a bite out of it as its logo. So this is something we do see, and I almost feel like the enemy's kind of laughing in our face, like, ha, ha, ha. So here's CERN. The research that is actually being done there, be careful when you read things about it because there's a lot of nonsense out there floating around about CERN, and I fell for it hook, line, and sinker for about 5 minutes. Yeah, that was about how long it took me to do the research and go, a minute, that's not true. The website that was posted on, by the way, is sort of a known, not quite The Onion, but it's maybe more like the Weekly World News, for those of you old enough to remember those terrible like rags of nonsense, like Elvis married an alien and those kind of things, and is still alive and living on Mars. Definitely that kind of website, the Weekly World News level. But as far as true things coming out from CERN, let me see if I can bring one of these up. This is from CERN scientists themselves about parallel universes. Hang on. So the thing, people have asked me to do a show on quantum physics, and I probably should because there's some weird stuff going on with quantum phenomena. And I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but when things get down to the quantum, the tiny, the miniature, the very smallest of small levels, they no longer follow our basic rules of physics and behave in extraordinarily strange ways. So physicists, especially physicists who are working on particles of that size, are accustomed to things being weird. I'll just put it that way. Accustomed to things being very strange. And they also come up with very weird names for things, like there's the cute, is it the cute quark? And the beauty quark. And there's a thing called a wiggler. I don't know. There's they give things weird names. They are kind of interesting people in a lot of ways. All right, so I'm going to show you. This is CERN. By the way, that Higgs boson, known as the God particle, I read from a scientist with CERN, I believe, and again, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, but that it was called the God particle because they wanted to call it the, excuse my French, the goddamn particle. I think I can say that on the air, because it was not behaving in ways that they wanted it to behave, and it was hard to find. And they quickly learned that people do not like them using that phrase. So they renamed it the God particle and said, well, that fits too, because it is one of the ones that would have been around at the very beginning. This is on CERN's website, a crunching multiverse. What's a multiverse? That's not a universe. Una means one, right? Multi means many. A crunching multiverse to solve two physics puzzles at once. A duo of theorists poses a new theory to explain both the surprisingly small mass of the Higgs boson, that's the God particle, and the puzzling symmetry properties of the strong force. The discovery of the Higgs boson was a landmark in the history of physics. It explained something fundamental, how elementary particles that have mass get their mass. And this, the mystery, is why we have a world at all, because matter should be balanced equally by antimatter, causing no matter to exist and everything to be annihilated. Somehow, in this world that we inhabit with physical things and physical bodies and mass, the antimatter is not canceling out the matter. So how is that possible? Well, this is one of the many things that they are explaining here. The discovery of the Higgs boson also marked something no less fundamental, the beginning of an era of measuring in detail the particles' properties and finding out what they might reveal about the nature of the universe. Now, at the risk of boring you by reading you lots of physics articles from CERN, I'm going to tell you that CERN scientists themselves are explaining how the discoveries they're making and hope to make in the future could well prove the existence of multiple parallel universes. That's their words. That is not conspiracy theorists. That's not crazy people on the weekly world news. That is CERN scientists themselves stating on their own website, in their own publications, in their own press releases, in their own content that they are putting out. They're stating things with a straight face like there are multiple parallel universes, and we're not entirely sure. We haven't quite found the evidence yet, but we're seeing things, anomalous things. We're finding unusual rates of decay and mass and matter that are pointing to that as a very real likelihood, and we are just trying to pin it down and find the truth. Okay. So what are the conspiracy theories? Well, one of them is that this Mandela effect that says Curious George did used to have a tail or didn't, and we all remember it one way, but yet when we look it up now, it's a different way. Or the Berenstain Bears was the Berenstain Bears. Those Mandela or Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 1990s versus he did not die in prison. He was actually became the president of South Africa. These different memories that people have that they will swear, I remember it was this one way. And then you go back and look at history. You read the newspapers of the time. You look at all the facts. You look at the Encyclopedia Britannica that has been sitting in your living room or your grandparents' living room for decades. And sure enough, there is the evidence of a very different thing than you remember. And so the Mandela effect is this attempt to explain that on the part of regular people saying maybe we are splitting off timelines. And there are people who say that because of the experiments in CERN in 2012 and in 2022, that those experiments actually did begin to split off timelines and that there are multiple universes existing all the time, all over the place. Now that's weird. That's weird. And I'm not sure how I'm going to address this in my book. And maybe I wouldn't have addressed it at all except for one really important fact that I discovered. And that is that the World Wide Web was created at CERN. Tim Berners-Lee, the father of the World Wide Web, the creator of hyperlinks and hypertext back in the 1990s, 1989 through, I don't know, the first time I saw it was 93, I think. That was created at CERN. What do you know? And I'm just finding these weavings and weavings. All right, I'll be right back.
I've been hearing a lot about the LifeWave patches, and they sound amazing. And I'm thinking I want to try them for myself. But can you tell me how they work?
You wear the patch, which is about the size of a quarter, 12 hours a day, 12 on, 12 off. And the patch uses your body's own light and energy and copper peptides to reactivate the dormant stem cells in your body. Once a stem cell has been reactivated, it can be used by any of the cells in your body that need it, creating a healing and growth process you haven't experienced since your youth. So in a nutshell, this is how the LifeWave X39 patch works.
You can purchase the LifeWave patches by going to americasfreedomnetwork.com. Then click on the Natural Health Products button at the top of the page. That's americasfreedomnetwork.com.
Look, this product works, and you've got nothing to lose because there's a 100% money-back guarantee.
That's americasfreedomnetwork.com. Thank you.
Get your driveway sealed and protected before winter with our 10-year commercial driveway and parking lot sealer. This penetrating sealer does not change the appearance of the concrete, and it protects against snow and ice melt products, automotive fluids, and more, while also protecting the concrete from chipping and spalling and slowing down what's already started. Let Veterans Concrete seal your driveway, garage floor, or sidewalks during their fall sealing sale. Call Veterans Concrete at 970-444-8250. That's 970-444-8250.
When I'm kicked back in the Batcave, I'm listening to Swamp Fight. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. right here on AM 1360. KHNC, Northern Colorado's best talk radio.
Want to comment on today's subject? You can. Call or text Katherine right now at 877-536-1360. That's 877-536-1360.
People who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine.
Hey, I'm back. Looking at this eyeball. I gotta post a picture of this thing. Let me post a picture of the link, at least, to the people in my YouTube chat and the people in the Katherine-Albrecht.com chat. If I can get over there. There we go. So you can see this eyeball. This iris, I don't know, just looks like a pupil in an iris. So that's CERN. CERN is, with a straight face, talking about parallel universes. People are experiencing weird things happening. Some people refer to it as a glitch in the Matrix. We have the movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves. There we go. Discussing multiple universes, discussing people in vats, discussing all kinds of strange and crazy science fiction-y things. And now we've got scientists at CERN actually doing these experiments, talking with a straight face about them. And so I spent, let's say, probably a good evening, maybe part of the next morning, just feeling a little like the world is weird. Like, I could have probably gone some time without having to think about multiple universes, parallel universes. And it reminded me of a very strange thing that happened to me that I had no way to explain, and a parallel universe would explain it. So the conspiracy theory, and I don't even know if I want to call it that, the conjecture, I guess, the conjecture on the part of people who are willing to think beyond the official story, is that in 2012 and 2022, CERN in Switzerland was doing experiments that split our world, our timeline, our reality, into multiple timelines. Now, if I turned on the radio and heard somebody saying that, prior to reading CERN physicists themselves saying that this is what they're hoping to find or what they're finding evidence of, I would go, oh, come on, give me a break. That's nuts. That's crazy. But the crazy stuff that for many years, all of us have kind of gone, yeah, right. Yeah, of course, that's not true. I'm starting to get a really strange feeling about a lot of those things, that there's more to them than we know. So, the internet, the web. Now, bear in mind the book that I'm writing is about all of these technological developments. And the premise is that each of the major technological developments, like electricity and communication technologies and the internet and artificial intelligence, that each of those developments has been demonically inspired. Here's the weird part. So the web certainly falls into that category. The web that has been a net and trapped all the fish. It has been a web and trapped all the insects. It is, where there's a web, there's a spider. There is something about the web that captures people. And I was reading some other website. I fell down this whole rabbit hole of physicists and discovered that some of the best-known physicists, like people like Niels Bohr and Oppenheimer and Heidegger, who's the uncertainty principle, that guy. These names that we all know, Schrodinger's cat, right? These names we all know, that they were studying Hindu philosophy, that they were Hindus, and that their Hindu understandings of the world led them to many of the breakthroughs that they had to develop the incredible physics that they've developed, which have played a huge role in having the world we have today. I was like, well, that fits, because what I'm finding is when I look at someone who has changed the world in a dramatic way, I find typically that they were engaging in psychedelic drug use, or they were channeling spirits, or they were seeking insights from religions that involve idols and demon worship. So I was not surprised to find that. But here's the part that blew my mind, is that the web was actually created at CERN by Tim Berners-Lee. Now, I've heard of Tim Berners-Lee. He's written a book about it. He's not as famous as he should be because he did not take a penny for what he did. the creator of the internet should be far richer than the creator of Amazon or the creator of Facebook, or the creator of software like Bill Gates, or of the cell phones that we all have in our pockets like Steve Jobs. And yet he's not famous because he's not one of the tech billionaires. He's not one of the tech bros. He, for the love of information and a desire to spread information across the globe, he came up with the word web. He came up with the architecture for the web. The internet had been previously created by DARPA as a military device or tool to connect their military computers. But it took Tim Berners-Lee working at CERN to develop the web. And the reason he did it was because there were so many scientists from so many different countries working on physics experiments at CERN that they needed a way to keep them all organized. And he came up with a way to network their computers together, and then got this vision, this image, this idea that that could be across the globe, and what would that mean? And he worked tirelessly to make it happen. Did not make any money from it, but that's what he did. So it is interesting to me to see the connection between CERN, which is doing weird stuff, has a logo that looks a lot like 666 to me, is looking at parallel universes. Some say they're opening a portal to hell and demons will pour through. Who knows now? Maybe. I don't know. It sounds nutty, but could actually be the case. And when you look further at CERN, there's one other thing that I want you to be aware of, and that is that there was a human sacrifice. Let me say this carefully. There is a statue of Shiva. This is the Hindu god of destruction. This is the destroyer of worlds that Oppenheimer referred to in the first nuclear bomb. Killed a bunch of people. Was it? No, I think it was just the test of it. But anyway, he says, I have become death, destroyer of worlds. That's from Shiva. It's from the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Hindu scripture, one of the Hindu scriptures that he had been reading and adhered to. And all of this tying together is blowing my mind. There is, CERN calls it a hoax. Snopes calls it a hoax. CNN calls it a hoax. Maybe it's a hoax, but someone posted a video from an apartment overlooking, like a hotel room or some higher building, overlooking the Shiva statue that was donated to CERN in 2004 as Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction who destroys the world. Big statue of Shiva there. And a bunch of people come out in robes in the dark and unrobe a woman. She falls to the ground or lies on the ground, and then she's stabbed and killed. The people holding the camera start screaming, oh no, ah, and that's the end of it. And that got posted on the internet, and it looks a lot like an actual horrible, occultic, satanic ceremony that took place at CERN. The backlash from it was swift. The people at CERN said there was no ceremony. That is a spoof. It's fake. The people responsible for it have been identified. They have faced consequences. They've been punished. And how dare they put something out like this that makes CERN look so bad. They have security passes, so it's not as though just anyone could have gone in there. So it was CERN scientists who did a spoof of a human sacrifice. The question, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? That's weird. Who would even see it, right? Who would even see something like that? Because you can't even get into the compound, into the facility without a badge. I don't know. The whole thing kind of blows my mind. And Freemasons, by the way, my own grandfather, who was a kind, wonderful, loving man, was a Freemason because they engage in spoof ceremonies as well. Little did he know that those things he was engaging in actually do have spiritual power. So Freemasonry, if it's in your family, you probably want to renounce that because they, in their mock ceremonies and their fake coffins and their fake human sacrifices, they make pledges and they pledge their descendants. And I know this, and this is actually true. This is not conspiracy. It just is what happens. Whether you want to believe that has any spiritual power or has any impact or not, that's a whole other issue. And that does require, I think, having a particular belief system. But the fact that there is a video of these things happening at CERN, the fact that Freemasons do engage in these mock ceremonies, the fact that these things go on is undisputed. So how is it that we got the web, right? One of the pictures I was looking at, I don't even know what I was looking at. It was talking about the enslavement of the web. And it just showed a college campus, and every single person at the college campus was looking down at their phone, ensnared, addicted. There was a picture this morning on the news, I think it was on the Drudge Report, of Kensington, Pennsylvania. I got that right, outside of Philadelphia. And similarly, there are dozens of people on fentanyl and tranq, T-R-A-N-Q, the other drug they mix it with, who are standing up, bent over at the waist, their heads hanging down, completely in a drug-fueled state of zombieism. And the person taking the film is walking past person after person after person in that state. So there's a lot of weirdness going on in our world. And I'm actually really glad I'm writing this book because I'm learning so many things. So if you know something about CERN that I don't know, or about really any of these things, I'm all ears. I'm learning as I go myself. All right, really quickly, let me tell you about J.D. Vance. Here's what he said. Here's what he said. When the left-wing media lies about what ICE is doing, said J.D. Vance, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies, but if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell. Thank you, J.D. Vance. Thank you for that word of kindness and understanding for our nation. Gosh! All right, see you tomorrow.
Did you know CBD can lower blood pressure, relieve inflammation, and even relieve stress and help with better decision making? Just go to 1360khnc.com/shop.
Sweet. Great show, Catherine.
All right. One sec.